Okay, good evening, everybody. My apologies for the delay for our note-taking tutorial video. Unfortunately, we had a little mishap over here. We had a slight flood in our house. We're getting our roof redone, but it wasn't covered and we had a little bit of water damage. But the good news is it's all taken care of and we're going to get it fixed so life can go on. So let's go ahead and focus on how to take notes for WHAP, Bolton style. Let me go ahead and go into presentation mode just to make our lives a little easier. Okay, so in this tutorial, we're going to go over notes on Edgenuity, and we're also going to go over what I like to call Thunderbolt notes. I had to include this picture of Wally again because there's really no other accurate face that you guys could possibly be making right now. I mean, it's just that's the face of pure, complete excitement to learn how to take notes. And I know that you guys are just as thrilled as Wally and not as cranky as Ryan, but that's to be determined. We'll see about that. Okay, notes on Edgenuity. So what I've done is I've taken like the Edgenuity section and the Thunderbolt section. I've separated it into like two different sections within this tutorial lecture. So our first section is going to be on Edgenuity notes. So our first question, how do I take notes on Edgenuity? So I have some good news for those of you who aren't too keen on handwriting your notes in Edgenuity. I'm not going to require you to. Technically, Edgenuity requires that every student takes one full page of handwritten notes per lesson, as I've specified here. Nevertheless, since I'm going to be uploading Thunderbolt videos once a week, and I'm going to be having you take notes from those, and those have to be handwritten, I'm going to allow you to use eNotes for Edgenuity, that little digital option that's embedded into Edgenuity. So basically how it works is whenever you open a new lesson, a box that states eNotes is going to pop up on the side. And you can go ahead and just kind of type in information as needed. And it's nice because it corresponds with the lesson. So you can take notes as the lesson is progressing. So my recommendation though, please don't type out every single little thing. When it comes to note-taking, you guys, the more notes you have, the less meaning and the less value you're going to find in those notes. Like if you're trying to just type down every single thing, you're really not going to get anything important out of what was in that lesson. So pay more attention to the lesson and type out what you think is important, but don't type out every single little thing. Also, do your best to type out your notes in your own words for your Edgenuity notes. If you can type out something in your own words, that means that you thoroughly understand it. If you really want to make sure that you understand what you've just typed down, later on, pull mom or dad aside or, hit up your homie and let them know, hey, can I practice explaining this to you so that I can see if I can understand it. If you can thoroughly explain something to somebody and that person understands what you mean and then they understand it, you know that you have a handle on what you've learned. So those are just two recommendations for you. Don't type out every little thing, and then try to also verbally explain what you've learned to someone in your family or to a friend. Now, if you are completely devoted to wanting to handwrite your Edgenuity notes, that is totally fine. But what I need you to do is if you plan on handwriting your Edgenuity notes, have a separate notebook from the one you're going to use for your Thunderbolt notes, for the stuff that I'm uploading. Make sure they're separate because we don't want to cross that material. We don't want to get it confused. So that's something that I really need you guys to do. Also, I have guidelines as far as if you want to handwrite your Edgenuity notes, follow these directions on the right-hand side of this slide. Use a personal email address to download and use Adobe Scan. I have a couple of links down here that instruct you on how to sign into Adobe Scan and how to subsequently use Adobe Scan. So we'll have you go ahead and use either of those links, and those will hopefully be informative for you. After you upload your Edgenuity notes into Adobe Scan, I will have a Google Classroom assignment link open for you to submit them. So make sure that you submit all of your notes every day if you want to handwrite your Edgenuity notes. If you want to just take the digital route for Edgenuity, for eNotes, again, totally fine. It is up to you. Okay, my next question, well, not really for you guys, but my anticipated question that I thought you guys might have for me. Is there a specific amount of notes that we have to type up if we are typing our notes into the eNotes box? No, I'm really not going to require like, oh, you have to have 25 bullet points from this section in order to get full credit, because I feel like that's kind of sort of a middle school mentality, like asking like, oh, like how many notes do I need to take? Like how long does it need to be? I want you guys to kind of grow into that college mentality of, well, I could write down like 35 bullet points, but does that work for me? Do I need to type up all of that? No? Then don't do it. You guys are soon to be college students. In 2 to 3 years, you're going to be freshmen at the college level. So I want to leave it up to you guys of how many notes you think are effective. But if you really want my professional academic recommendation, I would say 5 to 10 bullet points of notes per lesson. I think that would be a good number all around, so long as those 5 to 10 bullet points are summation points, meaning that you're writing down really, really important stuff and not just like minute, insignificant stuff. And then another question, do our notes have to be in complete sentences? No. I actually encourage you to use shorthand. I encourage you to use abbreviations. I encourage you to use symbols. But one thing I really want you to make sure you do, make sure that you can understand your own notes. I've been in this boat before where I go back and I look at my notes later and I literally look like one of these lovely people over here. I look like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I look like Britney Spears. I'm not sure what this guy's name is, but I've made all of these expressions because my notes just weren't understandable. So make sure that your notes are understandable before you move on to the next lesson, because you want to be able to go back and review those notes for a test or for the AP exam. All right, so we're going to switch gears. We're going to go to section 2 of this tutorial, which is all about Thunderbolt notes. So again, we have another little Q&A here. What are Thunderbolt notes? Thunderbolt notes are the notes that you will take from the videos that I post once a week, which will be called Thunderbolt videos. These weekly videos, they'll be fun. They'll be really interactive, and there will be like opportunities for you to go over the material again that you learned in Edgenuity. So you guys are kind of at an edge because I'm doing this, because you're going to see that material not once, but twice, and you're going to take notes on it not once, but twice. And here's the thing though. Thunderbolt notes must be handwritten. They must be handwritten. There will be no typing for Thunderbolt notes. Why? It's because, and you guys can even look this up, research shows if you physically write something, you are far more likely to remember it. Not only that, you're reading the information, you're listening to the information. So that's visual and that's auditory. And then you're writing out the information. So you're kind of like engaging with those fine motor skills. And it really helps the brain to help you remember the information you need to know. So that's why we're going to be handwriting notes for Thunderbolt notes. Length requirements for Thunderbolt notes. No less than 1 page front and back. No more than 2 pages front and back. I'm going to be pretty strict with this. If your notes for a Thunderbolt video are more than 2 pages front and back, then you will not get full credit, and I will have to take points off. I'm not going to not give you any credit because that wouldn't be fair, because you still did the work. And you might be asking yourself, well, Bolton, why are you capping it at 2 pages front and back? It's because if I don't, I promise you, there are so many of you that will take 25 pages of notes, front and back, and you won't get anything out of the lesson. So I want to avoid that. I really want to help you guys hone in and gauge what's really important. Things to kind of look for. If my voice kind of really inflects like this, then you probably really want to write down whatever I said. And sometimes it'll be a no-brainer. I will tell you, this is important. Write it down. So with that said, again, your Thunderbolt notes will be no less than 1 page front and back and no more than 2 pages front and back. Now, there's going to be an extra step when we get our textbooks. When we get our textbooks, I'm going to give you the specified page numbers that you need with each corresponding set of notes, and you are going to read those pages and then fill in information gaps. So with that said, let's go ahead and break that down so that you know what your notes are going to look like. So the first part of your notes is going to be just your notes from the video. That will be one color. So you could do that in black, you could do it in blue, you could do it in red, whatever you want. When you go back and you add in information from the textbook, what you want to do is you want to use a separate color to add in textbook information to your notes. So there will be 2 pen colors on each set of Thunderbolt notes. One color will be the notes you took from the video. The other color will be supplemental information that comes from the textbook. I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions about that, please hit me up so that I can take care of it. How do I format my Thunderbolt notes? So let's go ahead. Let's look at this image on the right. So we have your paper here. On the upper right-hand side, we'll have our unit number. Obviously, we'll start with Unit 1. You'll have your Thunderbolt notes number and your Thunderbolt video number. So on Thursday, when I upload the first Thunderbolt video, that'll be Thunderbolt Video 1. The notes that go with it will be Thunderbolt Notes 1. And of course, that'll be Unit 1. Now, the title for your Thunderbolt notes, whatever set you're doing, it corresponds with that video. So if you're watching Thunderbolt video number 1, write down the title from Thunderbolt video number 1 as your title for your Thunderbolt notes number 1. I hope that makes sense. So whatever the video title is, that's going to be your notes title too. The first thing that you want to write after you fill in that information at the top, you need to write the essential question. I will have an essential question at the beginning of each lecture for you to answer, or the beginning of each video, and then you will answer that question at the end of your notes. I'll go over that more in a second. You can kind of format this center section where you actually take notes. You can kind of format it however you like. Some of you like doing like Roman numerals. Some of you like doing like tree maps or bubble maps. You can do it however you want. The way I like to do it is I like to organize my notes by topic or by the slide title. So when I upload the first Thunderbolt video, it'll technically be in Google Slide format, and then I'll be recording voiceover over it. So just keep that in mind. So I will have like the slides numbered for you. And so you can put the title of that slide and then kind of take a few bullet point notes and then move on to the next slide and do that too. And the nice part is that the Thunderbolt video, you can watch it over and over and over. So if there's something that you missed, you can rewind back and you can highlight stuff and you could ask me questions. You could even, go on Remind and send me messages as you're watching it in case anything's confusing. So this will be a really good interactive way of relearning the material from Edgenuity. Okay, and then once you are finished with your set of Thunderbolt notes, at the bottom in this section here, you need to answer your essential question. You might be wondering to yourself, well, if we're doing that at the end of our notes, what should we put in this box on the first page or the back of the first page or the second page? On those pages, kind of jot down any questions that you might have. in that section. It might pertain to the material. It might be something random that you just remember that you wanted to ask. Just jot that stuff down there. So that way, you can kind of like ask me those questions and we can get the ball rolling for you. I hope this all makes sense. Again, please, if you have any questions, please hit me up. Okay, how do I take Thunderbolt notes? Again, I would recommend that you organize your notes by topic or by slide number. So you have, your slide number, or you have the slide title and then a few bullet points for each slide. That's how I would do it, but you don't have to do it that way. You can organize your notes however you'd like, as long as it's clean, as long as it's readable, and as long as it's understandable to you, I'm happy. Okay, I want to reiterate this. Make sure if you plan to handwrite your Edgenuity notes, keep your Edgenuity notes separate from your Thunderbolt notes. Keep them in separate notebooks. This will help you to stay organized and it will help you to study for the exam. Every week, I will create a Google Classroom link for you to submit your Thunderbolt notes. So that's where they'll be submitted. Please make sure that whenever you submit an assignment, make sure you submit it to Google Classroom. Please keep in mind, I have over 200 students. So if I have students submitting work in different places, it makes it hard for me to remember whose work is where. So that's just a polite request I'm making on my own behalf. And then, of course, once you are done with a set of Thunderbolt notes, you're going to use Adobe Scan to scan them, then upload them to Google Drive. Once they're uploaded to Google Drive, then you can attach them in the assignment section on Google Classroom. Okay, real quick, do's and don'ts for taking notes. What should you do when you take notes? How do you take notes effectively? You want to write down key points. You want to write down short, not long sentences. Think before you write. Don't just write down everything just because it's being said. You really want to think about what you're writing before you write. Short and to the point. And remember, too much notes means that you're going to get less meaning from it. You're not going to remember what you're writing if you're writing too much. You want to write, just paraphrase what is being said in the video. Keep everything nice and neat. I know that even when I was in college, sometimes I would take notes and I would take them frantically and then they'd be kind of useless. I'd go look at them later and I'd be like, what the heck did I just write? So keep your notes as neat and uniform as possible. Also, I want to really hammer this last point in, guys. Review regularly. Whether you're looking at your notes, whether you're reviewing an Edgenuity lesson, whether you're looking at your crash course book for AP World or whatever prep book you're using, you need to review, I would say 15 to 20 minutes daily outside of your regular work time. It doesn't have to be 2 hours of review every day. Even 15 to 20 minutes is good. This is a habit I would really get into. I guarantee almost every successful AP student reviews for the exam. They review their notes. They look at stuff on YouTube. They watch videos. They look at their crash course book. They use their resources from my class. They're all reviewing in some way, shape, or form. So if you want to be successful on the WHAP exam, which I'm sure you do, make sure that you review on a regular basis. Okay, last but not least, what should you avoid when taking notes? Okay, do not write verbatim exactly what's in the video because that doesn't demonstrate thorough learning. That demonstrates that you are good at listening and that you're good at replicating what you've listened to and copying it down, which is a valuable skill. I'm not saying that's not a valuable skill, but when it comes to retaining this material, you don't want to write down everything. You don't want to transcribe everything. You want to write down the important stuff. Make sure also to pay particular attention to what I am saying. I'm probably going to be adding a lot of stuff to whatever, the points are on the slide. So make sure that you listen to what I'm saying because something I say might not necessarily be bullet pointed on that particular slide. So please keep that in mind. Another bad thing that you don't want to do when taking notes is you don't want to just listen to what I'm saying without writing stuff down. The reason being is that most people don't have photographic memories. Now, I have a pretty good memory. I retain stuff pretty well, but I really don't think, like, I would not have been as good of a student had I not consistently taken and reviewed my notes. It's very important. No matter how good you think your memory is, no matter how you think you're going to remember everything, you're not going to remember everything. So make sure that you're not only listening to what I'm saying, but that you are writing down that key stuff. And then lastly, again, don't write down stuff that makes absolutely zero sense when you come to review it. That's why you want to think before you write, because otherwise you're going to be Michael Scott making this face, teeth on bottom lip and all. That's going to be your life. So don't do that. Okay, that pretty much wraps up our notes tutorial. I'm going to be posting a Google form here in a few minutes so that you guys can just kind of validate what you've learned today through our notes tutorial. So thank you again for listening in. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.